When entering university, you will notice that there are higher standards regarding education than there were at your high school. There is one notable exception, the presentation. Presentations on university level are usually incomprehensible, unorganized, or boring, or some combination of the three. So here are some guidelines I feel contribute to a successful presentation. The topic. Before you even think about presenting, you have to become familiar with your topic. You may not always choose the topic freely, but you can always choose what you talk about. Therefore, the first step is to investigate and understand. Take note of interesting ideas. You're not going to present most of the content, but you need to know a lot more about the topic. This helps you decide what information is worth presenting. The message. Once you're familiar with the topic, you have to decide what the message of your presentation is. In other words, what would you like the audience to remember? Then think about what concepts you need to explain such that somebody who has never heard anything about the topic can understand the message. Make a plan of the terms you want to explain and how you transition to the message. The environment. The presentation doesn't begin with the first slide. It is the moment you get up from your seat and walk to the front desk that gives the audience the first impression. This is the most stressful situation of the entire presentation because there are many unknown factors. You have to connect your computer to the projector and usually switch from extended screen to duplicate screen. Remember, the audience is watching you and is waiting, so be prepared. Here are a couple of things to keep in mind. Your laptop should be charged. Do you have the right display adapter to connect to the projector? Do you need sound or internet for your presentation? Avoid this whenever possible. What do you do when your laptop dies? What is your backup strategy? Tip. If you're in an unknown environment and there are multiple presentations, try to avoid presenting first. This allows you to see how others set up their presentation. Another factor to consider is time. Often, there are strict time limits. For example, your presentation has to be between 12 and 15 minutes. How do you know how much time is left? Is there a clock in the room? Tip. Just use the timer on your smartphone and be sure to increase the screen timeout time. The introduction. Now is when most people think their presentation starts. You often hear the phrase, "Welcome to my presentation," and although this is friendly, it's not interesting. You want to grab the audience attention. If you need to welcome the audience or present yourself, you can do that after you've got their attention. A good introduction reveals why your presentation is relevant and gets the audience to be interested. This can be done by, for example, reading the title of your presentation and asking an interesting question related to the title. Be sure to know your first phrase by heart. The slides. The most important rule here, keep it simple. The focus should be on you, the presenter, not on the slides. The slides are not a transcript of your speech, but complement what you say. Try to have as few words as possible on each slide. Use plots and images to demonstrate what you mean. If you show a plot, you have to explain it. Remember, simplicity is key. The audience usually hears these concepts for the first time, so don't show anything too complex. Each slide should be relevant. It should either explain something that is important for the message, or should show an interesting phenomenon. So no, you do not need to include portraits of the authors who wrote the paper you present. It's generally a good idea to have a "what you should remember" slide where you mention 3 to 4 important concepts of your presentation and reinforce the message. There is one notable caveat that requires extra thought: the ending. Usually, you want to give the audience the opportunity to ask questions at the end of your presentation, but often, even though I'm personally not a fan of this, teachers want you to display the sources live, which can only be done in the last slide. Therefore, you must not forget to switch to this slide. An elegant solution to this problem is to combine the question and source slides. Since the questions are part of your presentation, you will not forget to show this slide and thus also display the sources. Questions. The thought of answering unknown questions live can be intimidating, but to be honest, this is the most relaxing part of your presentation. Since you've only presented a small part of your research, you actually know much more about the topic. So if you can't answer a question, it's simply out of scope. Most probably nobody will ask a question, but if somebody does, aside from the teacher of course, congratulations, your presentation was a success. A question means that somebody found interest in your presentation and voluntarily listened. This is the ultimate goal. Presenting. It's normal to be nervous before and during a presentation. However, you can still be conclusive. The knowledge you have about the topic automatically gives you confidence and makes you convincing. While presenting, it is important to talk freely, so do not read text. If you expect the audience to follow you, you should be with them. You can practice by going through the slides many times by yourself, pretending that someone is listening. If you find a nice wording, remember it, and it will come back into your mind naturally during the actual presentation. Tip: present to your friend. This helps you figure out what parts of the presentation are confusing. Of course, some people are naturally better at presenting, but that shouldn't scare anyone, and obviously not all presentations have to be taken that seriously. Sometimes a casual and spontaneous presentation is more appropriate. However, I do feel that teachers focus too much on the content, compromising the actual performance. Think of the best presentation you've ever seen in person. Do you remember the message? Probably not. The thing is, no matter how good your content is, long term, nobody will remember what you said or how you said it. The only thing the audience retains is how you made them feel. So you've researched the topic, found a message, created the slides, checked your environment, set up the slides, nailed your introduction, presented the topic, summarized important points. But how do you end your presentation? The ending. After the summary, it should be obvious that the presentation is over. You should never have to say, "Okay, that's it," or "I'm done." If you feel that you need to underline the ending of your presentation, just say, "Thank you for your attention."